Think for a moment. Has there ever been a time in your life when, after learning something, you wished you could go back to how things were before? Has there ever been a piece of information that was better not knowing than knowing? Maybe you found out that someone you loved had lied to you, or perhaps you read a book that completely transformed the way you see the world. Maybe you discovered a truth about yourself that made it impossible to ever be the same again. At that very moment, exactly that moment, you paid the price of awareness.
When we were children, we were told, read more, learn more. Knowledge means power. And we believed it because we were taught that knowledge is a treasure. The more you collect, the richer and stronger you become. But no one told us that some treasures are trapped. No one told us that some truths, once learned, will not set you free. On the contrary, they will become a burden you may not be strong enough to carry.
This is exactly what we're going to talk about today. We'll explore some of the most dangerous kinds of information that exist in the world. But pay attention, these are not bomb-making formulas or weapon blueprints. They're something deeper, more subtle, and far more dangerous. These are the kinds of truths that change you the more you think about them, the kind that turn your view of life upside down, and sometimes open doors that can never be closed again. Before we continue, I need to warn you, after watching this video, you may not be able to see certain things the way you once did. This is not a promise, it's a warning. If you're ready, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let's begin.
In ancient Greek philosophy, there's an interesting concept called agnosia, a state of not knowing. But the Greeks did not always see it as something negative, because they understood that in certain situations, not knowing can protect the human soul. You're probably familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave. The people living inside the cave see only the shadows on the wall. They do not know the truth, and yet they are happy. They are comfortable within their own world. Then one of them leaves, sees the sun, and discovers reality. He returns, wanting to tell the others what he has seen. What happens? They don't believe him. Worse, they call him insane. In this allegory, Plato reveals the cost of truth. The one who sees reality can no longer find comfort. He cannot return to the cave as he once was. But he is not fully accepted above either. He is left suspended between two worlds. This is not just a philosophical tale. It is a real psychological state that happens to people every day. In psychology and popular culture, it's often called a red pill moment. That moment when the veil of life is lifted and nothing is ever the same again. In 2011, neuroscientists made an interesting discovery. They found that when the human brain receives new, shocking information, especially information that contradicts existing beliefs, a physical activation occurs in the brain. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up. In other words, the brain perceives a new truth as a threat. Think about that. Your brain is afraid of you learning, afraid of change, because change means stepping into the unknown. And to the brain, the unknown equals danger. That's why people often deny the truth. It's not weakness, it's a self-protection mechanism of the brain. But sometimes information is so powerful that the brain cannot deny it. What happens then? Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. Two conflicting truths exist in the mind at the same time. This state can cause discomfort as intense as physical pain. Now we come to the main question. Which kinds of information change a person the most? Which ones leave no way back once you learn them? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about three main blocks of information. Each comes from a different field, but they all share one feature. Once learned, your perspective on the world can never be the same.
The first is the illusion of freedom. Let's say you woke up this morning. You chose what to wear, you chose what to eat, you planned how your day would go. You think you made these choices yourself, right? Wrong. This is one of the pieces of information people find most unsettling when they learn it. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted an experiment. He asked participants to move their hand whenever they wanted, while simultaneously measuring their brain activity. The results were shocking. The brain became active 300 to 500 milliseconds before the person made the conscious decision to act. In other words, the moment you think, "I decided," your brain had already made the decision. Your consciousness comes in afterward, like a spectator. What does this mean? Your free will may be nothing more than an illusion. You don't truly make the decision, your brain does, and you simply experience it afterward as if it were yours. When people first learn this, many deny it, because if it's true, then what about responsibility? Who is to blame? What is the meaning of life? That is the price of this knowledge. A part of your comfort is taken away.
The second is the fragility of social reality. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo conducted an experiment at Stanford University, which became known as the Stanford Prison Experiment. For the study, ordinary, healthy, normal college students were selected. Half were assigned the role of guards, the other half the role of prisoners. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks, but it had to be stopped after only 6 days. Do you know why? Because the students playing the guards had begun using real methods of psychological torture, while those playing prisoners were experiencing severe mental breakdowns. Every participant was an ordinary, normal person. None of them had any predisposition towards such behavior beforehand. What does this experiment teach us? What makes us good or evil is not primarily character. It is the situation, the environment, the role you are assigned. You might think, "I would never do anything wrong. I would never commit injustice. I would never turn a blind eye to cruelty." But Zimbardo said, under the right circumstances, in the right roles, almost anyone is capable of anything. This knowledge shakes your confidence in yourself, but at the same time, it forces you to look at humanity more honestly. That is the price of awareness.
The third is the paradox of happiness. Harvard University followed the lives of 724 people over 75 years, making it the longest-running study on happiness in history. Do you know what the results showed? What makes people truly happy is not money, not fame, not success. It is deep, meaningful relationships. That sounds beautiful to hear, but when you think about it deeply, this information is heavy. Because it means that much of modern life operates under the assumption that earning money, building a career, or appearing successful on social media equals happiness. Yet all of these things have almost no impact on true happiness. We dedicate the most valuable years of our lives to the least important pursuits. Learning this, well, it doesn't set you free. On the contrary, it often brings a deep sense of sorrow. You look back and see how you've wasted time. But at the same time, this knowledge awakens you, and you realize maybe it's not too late.
The fourth is the two faces of knowledge. In ancient Greek mythology, there were two kinds of knowledge: episteme, rational, provable knowledge, the language of science; gnosis, inner, transformative knowledge, the kind that changes you when you learn it. All of the information we've discussed today belongs to the category of gnosis. These are not just facts that occupy your brain, they are truths that take root in your heart. Psychology confirms this. Information that changes a person's worldview doesn't only activate the intellect, it also engages the emotional system. When someone learns this kind of knowledge, several things happen. For a while, they experience confusion. Their old beliefs clash with the new information. Eventually, they either change their beliefs or reject the information. Very few people take the third path. They accept the knowledge
and learn to live in peace with it. This is the hardest, but also the most liberating path.
The fifth is the info hazards of human history. If we look closely at history, we see that some information was not just a new fact, it was a single sentence, yet that sentence could shatter an entire era, it could topple a belief, it could change humanity's view of itself. For example, Nicolaus Copernicus came forward and said, "The Earth revolves around the sun." Yes, today this seems ordinary to us, but at that time, this idea was not a calm scientific conclusion, it was a bomb dropped into the system of thought. For centuries, humans believed they were the center of the universe. Everything was thought to exist for them. And then someone said, "You were not the center. You were just a species living on a small planet." Why was this idea forbidden? Why did it meet resistance? Because the issue was not astronomy. The issue was human identity. If you are not the center of the universe, then who are you? It was no longer a scientific question, it was a question of existence. Then Charles Darwin stepped onto the stage. He said that humans are not special beings descended from the heavens. Humans are the product of millions of years of evolution. You are not separate from other living creatures. You are their continuation. This idea shook society because humans had grown accustomed to seeing themselves as superior to nature. Suddenly, they realized they were also part of it. This was not just a biology lesson, it was a blow to the ego. But perhaps the quietest and deepest blow came from Sigmund Freud. He said that humans do not know themselves as well as they think. You are not governed solely by your conscious mind. You have a subconscious. Hidden desires, fears, and traumas live within you, and very often it is not you, but they who make the decisions. This idea was frightening because humans trusted in free will. But what if you don't have full control over yourself? What if there are invisible forces inside you guiding your actions? Copernicus removed humans from the center of the universe. Darwin placed them within nature. And Freud showed that even within ourselves, we are not the center. These three ideas were considered dangerous in their time because each revealed a truth. Humans are not as grand, as superior, or as in control as they believe. And perhaps the most powerful form of an info hazard is this, the truth about ourselves that we do not want to hear. The sixth is that perhaps the goal is not to forget, but to learn how to carry it. Now a question arises. If some truths are so heavy, so shattering, why should we, or why do we, seek to learn them? Why would anyone pursue information that disrupts their comfort? Socrates gave a simple but powerful answer. An unexamined life is not worth living. This means that avoiding difficult questions does not make you safe. It only makes you less awake, less real. Sometimes comfort comes at the cost of truth. Yes, some information will unsettle you. Some truths will shatter your old beliefs. But the question remains, will you choose the comfortable illusion or the shattering reality? In psychology, there's a concept called post-traumatic growth, growth that occurs after trauma. Research shows that some people who face severe events or confront shattering truths emerge stronger. They become more empathetic. They begin to think more deeply. Because what breaks is not the person themselves. What truly shatters is the old, narrow worldview. At first, you think you've lost something, but in reality, you are changing. A new perspective forms within you, broader, more honest, more real. The weight of information can crush you, but it can also make you grow. This is the true meaning of the price of awareness. Here, you lose only one thing, your old comfort, your old simplicity, your old sense of safety. But what do you gain in return? More conscious choices, a more honest perspective, a life that truly belongs to you. Perhaps the goal is not to avoid dangerous knowledge, but to learn how to carry it.
Because some truths do not weaken a person, they simply prevent them from remaining as they once were. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Yes, they say knowledge is power, and that's true, but even this power comes with a price. For example, when you learn that freedom is merely an illusion, at first you feel confused. You think, if I'm not truly in control, then what am I controlling? But at the same time, you learn to judge yourself less, because we are all, in some way, caught in this illusion. When you understand how people respond to situations, fear arises. If I am so influenced, what do I really control, you wonder? Yet, at the same time, you begin to approach others with more understanding and empathy. You realize that everyone carries unseen struggles within themselves. When you discover that happiness lies in relationships, you may grieve for what you lost in the past, but simultaneously, you begin to live today more fully, valuing what you have in your hands right now. This, then, is the price of awareness. You lose something, your old comfort, your simplicity, perhaps even the belief that everything is in your hands. But in return, you gain far more valuable things: genuine empathy, conscious choices, deep understanding, and a life that truly belongs to you.
Socrates knowingly drank the poison because he understood that giving up truth for ignorance is worse than death. Perhaps today, in some way, you have also died because of an old belief, an old comfort, an old worldview. But believe this death is necessary. Without the old you dying, the new you cannot be born. If on this journey you've discovered something that truly belongs to you, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Every comment is a light. Sometimes the greatest truths begin with a single word.